Oops, I just started filming and realised I put the tripod on one of Ross's new very pink coleus? Coleus? Colei? I'm not sure what you call the plural of this very bright plant that looks a little bit like a variegated stinging nettle, but it seems to be fine. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I am just setting up to do some plant chores. And one of the questions that I've been getting asked a lot recently, and to be honest, it's one that I often not ignore, but I kind of feel like if you watch my videos, then you'll know, so I don't answer it as much, is very simple. It's just how do you care for so many plants? And the simple answer to that is that I don't always keep on top of this many plants. It can be a bit of a struggle from time to time, but I thought it would be fun for me to go through with you guys and just kind of do a general, what I do in a planty day when I'm not filming. Yeah, just kind of some of the stuff I do off camera, the stuff that I really enjoy doing. A lot of the time there's a reason that I don't film it because I find that time kind of, I was going to say sacred, like it's a really lovely way for me to just unwind. I've said it many times before, but I'm not the best at kind of being still and meditation a lot of the time. So for me, it is very meditative. It's just very lovely. But also I've just noticed a plant outside on the balcony that's in full sun and should not be. I'm going to have to move it or I'm going to forget about it. In you come. Also note the fact that there is a new rug on the balcony. We'll come back to that. I now have absolutely no idea where I got to or what I was saying exactly, but that is what today's video is going to be. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learnt over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And I also asked you guys to send in some questions, so I thought we could do a plant chores / Q&A type chat today. So yes, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So just because I'm sat right next to them, I thought I would just give you a quick update. But as you guys know, one of the things that I do quite a lot if I'm either not in love with a plant anymore or I'm just not getting on particularly well with it and I want to reset it, is often I will lop it back to absolutely nothing and regrow it and see if my thoughts and feelings change towards the plant. And I did it with a couple of anthuriums recently, one of them being the Anthurium doriaci, which has just started putting out this gorgeous little leaf. And to be completely honest, I do still think I'm going to get rid of this plant. I think I'm going to take it to the next plant swap I go to, just because I think it's really nice, but I don't know, all of its leaves, once they get to a certain size, seem to kind of crack and split. And I love doriaci hybrids. And part of me is like, do I hang on to this plant purely so that I could potentially cross-pollinate it? I'm not entirely sure yet, to be honest. I'm holding on to it for a little bit longer and seeing how I feel. But yeah, it is absolutely adorable and that little leaf is very, very sweet. So I'm glad that it's doing well. As you can see, it's in a pretty big pot. It had a really substantial root system, so I thought I'd give it a nice big pot. But the other one that I've got here that I am very excited about is my Anthurium magnificum, which has just started giving me what is currently quite a small leaf, but I predict this will probably, I don't know, get to about that size. This one, the last leaf it gave me was ginormous, but to be honest, the reason that I lopped this plant back is purely for the fact that I feel like I didn't create a good growing space for it and therefore things started to really go downhill. I've been growing this one on top of my fridge for the last 8 months, and although the last leaf it gave me was really, really big and really beautiful, it just went crispy very quickly because it wasn't getting enough light, it wasn't getting enough humidity, and I wasn't caring for it very well. So this is my reset. And I'm excited for this one now. I'm still not quite sure where I will grow it because it does get very big very quickly, but I'm going to figure that out as we go. For now, this is positive. It's exciting me again for the first time in a really long time, so I'm glad I made the chop. And then another little one next to it is this Begonia breviremosa, which is actually Ross's, and his mother plant next door in the bedroom is doing so well. And oh my goodness, it's kind of making me very excited at the moment because Ross is really, really getting into plants. Like he's making terrariums left, right and centre. He's propagating, like he took this cutting himself, and he seems to be really enjoying it. And not that he has to be into plants whatsoever, but it is just quite exciting when you see someone that wasn't previously a planty person kind of starting to fall in love with it. So that's fun. But yeah, I was gonna start over here and do some more stuff over here, but actually there's a pile of plants behind me that do require attention, and there's a couple of things that are a bit more desperate than others. So I think I might start there and then work my way around the room. I was going to say, when I do off-care plant stuff, I don't tend to plan anything. I just go with the flow, and I might end up over there, and then I'll be over there, and I just kind of see where it takes me. So today's video is going to be a little like that, I think. So some of the plants, in fact, also this one that I just brought in from the balcony is again one of Ross's. It's his Calathea ornata, which is doing really well. However, in the last couple of months, on and off, it has had spider mites. I'm not sure if you can kind of clearly see the damage on the leaves, but they are a little bit spider mitten. And it's been treated recently, but we just put it out when it was raining earlier because I was like, that's probably a good thing to do. But yeah, I'm just going to go put that through in the bathroom so that it's not nearby other plants. But yeah, as I say, I've got some plants shoved down in this corner here, which are kind of like reject plants at the moment. If you're on my Patreon, then you will have already seen them because I took you through them the other day. And I'm not gonna deal with all of them right now. There's just a couple of things that are, so it's a very wonky camera angle, a couple of things that are a little bit pressing and I would like to deal with first. The first one being, and this is really quite sad, but my Aglaonema tigress has got root rots very badly, and to be honest, I pulled this plant out to look at it about a week ago, and all of these plants have just been sat here since. They've all just been left down here. So yeah, as I say, I'm not gonna put the pressure on myself and be like, I have to do them all in today's video, but I would definitely like to deal with things such as this because I love this Aglaonema. It is honestly, in my time of owning it, given me no grief whatsoever, and I think for that reason I've just become a little bit complacent with it. And I did say in that Patreon video before I went away recently, I did a very quick water of a lot of plants to just kind of get things done, and I didn't allow that one time to drain properly, and I just did it and I left it to one side, and I just don't think I did a very good job, and I think for that reason it has started to rot. So yeah, I'm gonna start off by just getting, I say, all of the soil off. There's actually the start of new roots on here. If I remove these dead ones, which I think are actually looking pretty healthy and positive. So I'm just gonna try and get as much of the dead roots and old substrate off. And then I think I'll probably get it into moss. But as I do that, as I say, I did ask you guys to send in some questions. So I'm just gonna pull those up. So just going through these in the order that they came in, the first question is, when was the last time you bought a plant? And you may think that the answer to this question is when I went to the RHS festival at Malvern, because I came away with 20 new plants, which I know is awful. But actually I have bought a plant since then. Basically the other day I said to Ross that I would go and pick up some, it was very boring, I went to go get some contact lenses for him. And I'm really trying to get better at practicing my driving at the moment. And it was the first time that I've been in the car and done like, not a long drive, but I think I was driving for like, it was like 35 minutes there and 35 minutes back, so just over an hour in total. And I actually started to feel pretty good. I wasn't terrified, because usually I get in the car and I think to myself, oh my God, you're about to kill someone. and I didn't have as much angst around it, and I was feeling more natural with driving. And so on my way back from getting Ross's contact lenses, I saw signs to a garden centre, and I was like, oh, I was like, maybe I should go to a garden centre. And so I decided to pop in. It was a lovely garden centre, actually. I'm glad that I discovered it. But I wanted to get a big pot for my Euphorbia aquarensis because it is so big and so heavy now. It needs something weighing it down. And so I got a new pot for that. And at the same time, I came across a Hoya Crimson Princess, which is so beautiful, but sadly it's actually outside at the moment because, and I didn't realise this at the time when I got it, I didn't check it properly, it's actually come with aphids, and that's something that I've not only never seen on a Hoya before, but I've never seen on a houseplant buying it from a garden centre. Just, I think usually, I mean, obviously I know they buy their stock in, but usually aphids are quite an easy one to spot because they're big and they're green and they're, I don't know, I find them easier to spot than something like thrips or spider mites personally. So I was going to say it's weird that the garden centre didn't spot them, but I guess I didn't spot them either. But no, that is the most recent plant that I've bought, and I know I need to stop. I know I need to slow down because I have acquired many, many, many plants recently. Also, oh, damn it. So I've just got all of the roots basically off. You can see there's just the start of some little aerial roots. But looking at the bottom of the stem, I have a feeling that might be rotten as well. Like, oh, yeah, that came off very easily. And you can see there's a bit of rot there. So I'm gonna have to just make some cuts. And I could do like a hydrogen peroxide treatment. To be honest, I don't think I'm gonna need to. I think this should, I don't want to jinx it, but this should be enough. There we go. Yeah, I've just chopped off the bottom, and as you can see, that is nice and clean. So I'm just going to do the same with all of the sections, get them nice and clean and rot free, and then we can move on to the next step. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like on a plant ban now or anything, but especially considering the fact that we are coming into growing season and all of my plants already have really started to pick up the pace, I think I need to just be mindful of the fact that I'm going to have much bigger plants very soon, and I am running out of room. So maybe if I do get any more, just like small cuttings, I would say. And then, yeah, I've got another section here. If I lose a couple of these little bits, I'm not too worried. I'd obviously like to save the whole plant if I possibly can, but it's not the end of the world. What's the hardest plants to take care of that you own? Oh, I think any plant can be difficult if you're not giving it what it needs. Like even some of the easiest plants. I actually said in a video recently, it's funny how like plants such as snake plants and stuff like that, they get the label of being such an easy care plant, and they are. However, I think because they can take so much neglect, you do just tend to neglect them more. Like I know I absolutely do. I recently had to deal with my Sansevieria moonshine because that one had been very neglected and subsequently overwatered and was just not looking good at all. But I think if you're just thinking like conventionally difficult, I think the one in my collection that I took the longest to get my head around is probably my variegated Alocasia Frydek. I now feel fairly confident with that plant. It's a plant that I never take for granted, and I know that it could still surprise me, but it is one that took me a good year and a half to actually kind of feel like I knew. Alocasias on the whole, actually, I'm sat next to my big Alocasia Portadora, this one, and as I've said in many a video, that one can be a nightmare. It can be an absolute nightmare, primarily because it is such a magnet for pests. Like, I can't see any on it right now, but honest to God, I'm treating that plant every single week. And it's just crazy. It's had every single pest under the sun that you can possibly think of. Also, I'm just going in with sphagnum moss, and I think I'm gonna, yeah, I think because it doesn't have any roots now, I'm essentially just gonna stick all the sections into sphagnum moss and like propagate it, start again. I have done this with Aglaonema before and it's worked pretty well. I might maybe actually put these smaller sections into a different container, just because I think they'd be more likely to rot because their stems aren't as like chunky and they don't have many aerial roots. And then that way, if rotting does start, I don't need to disrupt the other ones. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do. Someone said, the soil around my calathea has a layer of mold/fungus on it. What can I do? This is really, really common with any kind of plant that likes to be consistently moist. Often, if you do see mold on the top of the soil, it's either a sign that you're overwatering, you're overdoing the moisture, or your plant doesn't have good drainage, but also it can be airflow. It can be that you don't have enough air circulating throughout your home to prevent that, because often if you run fans and stuff like that, or even just have the windows open regularly, you'll notice that you're far less susceptible to that. That goes for mold in your house as well, as in not on your plants, like on your walls. But also I found with calathea, it can be down to the type of soil. And for example, if you're using the mix that I like to use for calatheas is either actually semi-hydro nowadays, but if I'm using an organic substrate, I use the Calathea mix by Soil Ninja. And if I remember correctly, it's got lots of bark and stuff like that in it. And it's actually an airier mix than you might think of when you hear Calathea initially. And I have never struggled with mold with that type of soil mix. However, some of the calatheas that I've bought from, again, like garden centres, houseplant shops, the stuff that they come potted in is very dense. And I think because it is so dense, it has the tendency to hold on to moisture in a way that it doesn't if you're using an area mix. And yeah, the stuff that you get it potted in can be more susceptible to mold, I have found in the past. So yeah, I would probably recommend repotting and maybe just thinking a little bit more about things like airflow, as I say. But if it's really bothering you, as I say, semi-hydro for calatheas is an absolute game changer, especially because they're plants that can be quite high maintenance, that need quite a lot of care. If you want to just be able to not forget about it, but not worry about it as much, then getting it into semi-hydro, 100% would recommend. Cool, right, that is that one. And I'm just gonna make sure the sphagnum moss stays nice and hydrated. I will probably put this one over on my little rehab shelf and monitor it there. And in fact, I'm just gonna get a smaller cup and put these ones into moss as well. In fact, this here is one of the cider cups that I got, just plastic cup, from the RHS Malvern Festival. I was going around and doing what I always do and like collecting all the cups and being like, free propagation things. So yeah, I'm just gonna grab another one of those. In fact, I have a cup right here in the moss bag, so let's use that instead. And then hopefully in the next, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I might be able to get these potted back up and get a lovely full plant going again. Because the Aglaonema tigress, I want to say, is one of my oldest Aglaonemas. I've had it for quite a while. And as I say, ironically, it's given me no grief at all in the time that I've had it. But I think, again, similarly to what I just said about snake plants, I think because it has been so easy, it's one that I've kind of, I don't know, I've taken a few too many risks with. And this one just couldn't take the overwatering thing. And for that reason, here I am. Because again, not a difficult plant at all. One of my easiest, yet one that I am struggling with now. Perfect. Cool. And as I say, I'm not gonna do loads to everything down here because I have got quite a lot down here. But one thing that I would like to chop up and start propagating again is my Begonia albopicta, because I am just not happy with the way this plant is growing. I said this in my Patreon video, but when I first moved here, this begonia was probably about up to there. It was beautiful. It was on a trellis. It was loving life. And it just acclimated really badly. I don't think I helped it enough. I think I thought it was hardier than it was. And I've just had struggle after struggle. And in fact, I'm going to just chop it as I'm talking to you. But I've just had struggle after struggle after struggle with this one. And yeah, now it's in a semi-hydro mix. And it's not particularly happy in there. It keeps kind of growing and then dying back, and its growth, as you can see, is really tiny. And although it's very pretty, I know the potential of this plant. I know it could be doing so much better. So I think I'm just gonna stick these cuttings that I've just taken in water, reroot the plant, probably pot it up in soil, I think, and then make decisions on what to do next from there. I've just filled this little skull jar of Ross's with water, and I'm just going to pop them in there and probably put them by the window just over here because, oh, I just lost a leaf. That is similar light to what it's been receiving because it has been in my cabinet up until now. And in fact, I could put it back in my cabinet actually. The only reason I'm ever so slightly reluctant to do that is I did find thrips in my cabinet quite recently, and I've actually just been releasing loads and loads and loads of predatory mites. I got not just the sachets this time, but this is 50,000 predatory mites. And I've been doing it. Do I put it back in? I may as well. Everything has been pest treated in here. But I'm just keeping a very close eye on everything. But yeah, usually when I get predatory mites, I use the sachets and I'll hang them all over the place, but I went for a much bigger number this time. Some of them I still need to distribute around the rest of my collection as well, just to be on the safe side. But I've been putting them in little pots like this. I've got, why is it only focusing on my face today? I've got lots of little pots all over my cabinet here. I've got them on different levels. And then also I've just been scattering them into the soil of the plants as well. I've put them on moss poles. And I'm really hoping that this is going to do the job. As I say, I've never gone in with quite this many before, but I think now that we're having warmer weather and we're kind of in growing season, I'm like, I want to tackle any thrips head on and not let it get out of control because they can just be such a pain to deal with, and I don't want to be dealing with an infestation. But otherwise, everything cabinet wise, I would say is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with everything in my cabinet at the moment. One thing that I did do recently, and I know actually I saw someone had asked a question about this further down the list, but someone was saying, I'll put that question on the screen, but they said something like, can you use soil with leca? And usually, I've said before, I wouldn't recommend using an organic substrate alongside semi-hydro because your plant can rot very easily. But I am doing a little experiment at the moment, and this is my Peperomia incarna, which I absolutely love. I think it is such a beautiful Peperomia. And I chopped it back recently to take some cuttings. As you can see, I've taken some cuts there. And instead of potting it into a bigger pot when I upsize the pot, I decided to try, oh, and in fact I can see some roots coming through, which is really encouraging. I decided to try doing a big layer of leca at the bottom of the pot and then just potting it in a really well draining substrate on top. And I'm just using a glass jar, so there's no drainage here. And this is not the way that I would usually do things, but I just thought, seeing as I've now got multiples of this plant, why not have a play about? I really enjoy soil growing. I know I've been so semi-hydro for such a long time now, but I love soil growing, and I think it's just so much easier to monitor in some ways in some ways compared to semi-hydro. I know in other ways semi-hydro massively has its benefits, but I don't know, maybe I'm reverting a little bit. I mean, I'm not. I still love semi-hydro growing, but I'm just trying to figure out the balance. And there's some plants, such as this one, that I feel like I haven't struck a good balance yet, and I'd like to bring out the best whilst doing some experimentation. So that is what I am currently doing. Oh, and also update. My beautiful Alocasia Dragon's Breath that I got in Malvern is starting to give me a new leaf, which is so exciting. Some of you have messaged me as well to say that you've got this plant, and apparently it sizes up really quickly, so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, right, what else? Do I want to do anything else from that corner? As you can see, I do still have quite a lot down there, but it's not pressing. It's not pressing. I think probably what I should do is just get a bit on top of watering, which I know is not always the most interesting thing in the world, hence why I tend to save it for off-camera plant days. But I can go through, give you some updates at the same time, do some questions, and give everything a check over, and potentially a wipe down / pest treatment. I did actually mix up some horticultural soap and a sponge just here. Let's start from here and work our way around. In fact, let's start from here. Let's start with the Tenanthe that's right in front of me. I know I should absolutely measure my fertiliser, but I've been using this specific fertiliser for a while now, and I feel like I just kind of know the measurements. Probably don't, but my plants aren't complaining. So I have got this one in semi-hydro at the moment. Again, I know this isn't technically a Calathea, but Calathea family. And yeah, it's really happy, growing really well, giving me no grief. I'm just going to give it a little prune and a little wipe down. But the next question is, how is Yoli? And Yoli's good. She is just behind me. Can you see her there? Hey, baby girl. Hello. She's very sweet. She always sits and watches when I'm making videos. But no, she's good. I'm trying to think if there's any Yoli updates. Oh my God, I know. She was so, well, I say so naughty. She was naughty, but I set the naughtiness up to happen. So we got back from, so Ross came to join me for the last couple of days at Malvern. And when we were there, we got loads of stuff. Obviously, we got plants. We also got some cheese. And there were loads of little stalls there, and you could sit and you could taste the cheeses and stuff. And one of the ones that we got was I didn't actually try this one, but a really hot, spicy chili cheese. And Ross tried that, and he was like, oh my God, he was like, that's so spicy, but really nice. And so we got that. We got a garlic and parsley cheese. We got just loads of really nice cheeses. And we got back from Malvern that evening, and we were absolutely knackered. You can probably tell where this is going, but we dumped the bags in the bedroom. We came through, we flopped on the sofa, and about half an hour later, we just kind of heard a bit of a scratching, and I was like, what's that noise? And I went next door, and Yoli had found her way into the cheese bag. And as I say, completely my own fault, because I should not have left the bag on the floor. But in my defense, Yoli doesn't usually do that. She's usually very good about this sort of stuff. But long story short, she had got the chili cheese, the really spicy chili cheese, and she'd not only eaten all of the cheese in the wheel, but she'd eaten the wax as well that goes around it. And so obviously I had a massive panic, thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? Are we going to have to take her to the vets? And I did some Googling, and the general consensus was just to keep an eye on her and make sure she was all right. And obviously there was probably going to be some sickness and all sorts. There wasn't at all, and she's been fine. This was now well over a week ago, and she's been absolutely fine. It's definitely just been a reminder to keep things out of reach of the dog, but yeah, that's the latest. Apart from that, she's just been having lovely W's. Me and Ross, I think I said recently, we've started running a little bit with her from time to time, so we're attempting to get fit and she loves it. So yeah, she's getting nice walks and yeah, she's just a happy girl. She's a happy girl. If you could only pick one plant care product, what would it be? Oh, actually that's harder than I initially thought. So I would want to say the fertiliser that I use, Liquid Gold Leaf. I absolutely love it. I feel like it is responsible for the reason that a lot of my plants are so lovely. However, I think if it was picking one product and I could only use that product forever, I'm like, maybe I should pick horticultural soap. Because what's the point in having a lovely collection of plants if they're going to be pesty? But then I guess I could use water and like dish soap. I don't know. I think I would go fertiliser. I think that is what my... Yeah, I think I'd go fertiliser. What would you guys pick out of interest? Because I'm always looking to discover new planty products. I love testing things out. I know obviously certain things are different in different parts of the world and you can't always get like the same things everywhere, but if you guys had to pick just one plant care product, it could be absolutely anything. It could be fertiliser, it could be soil, it could be pots, it could be anything. What would you pick? Do you still have your medium silver and have you got any tips for them? So no, I don't have that plant anymore and that plant very sadly died. To be honest, I should have let that plant go sooner. It's one that I think is beautiful. I love the medium silver and just from looking at it, like just seeing pictures of it, I'd be like, oh my goodness, that's a wish list plant. Like I would love to have that plant again. I just found it really difficult. I found it a very challenging plant to grow and not challenging in the fun way. It gave me, I think, about 3 beautiful leaves in the 2 or so years that I owned it. And yeah, then it just started putting out runners left, right and centre. I should have got it onto a moss pole sooner. That's one thing, if I was going to give any advice with that plant, I would say get it onto a moss pole. As I say, I did not do that and that is why I think I struggled so much with the plant. But yeah, mine just got to the point where, in fact, I was just about to get rid of it. I think about this time last year and then it gave me the most beautiful leaf. And I was like, okay, well, maybe all hope is not lost. Maybe I should give this plant one more go. And that's when it died. So yeah, it wasn't the plant for me, but it is one that I can really appreciate. So good luck. Good luck with it. And sorry, I can't be more helpful. I think moss pole, high levels of humidity, and probably a lot of patience. Probably more patience than I had with mine. One of you said, how's your mental health been? Hope you're doing well. I don't know why that was so hard to read. You know what? Recently, I've been feeling really good, like really good. I'm going to talk about Malvern again because I can't stop talking about Malvern. But I said in my video, my haul video after that, and I cannot reiterate this enough, so much of the time when I've been to like a big social event, it doesn't even matter what it is, I can feel really wiped afterwards, like I can feel a bit deflated. And I don't know what it was about Malvern. I don't know. I think it was a combination of everything, but beautiful weather, lovely people, so many plants, good food, good drink. I just felt so lifted and energized coming away from it. And when was it that I got back? Was it last week? Last week or the week before? But since then, I've felt like I felt really good, like better than I felt for quite a long time. And it's kind of just made me reflect a little bit really and kind of go, okay, why do I feel like I got to the point of feeling a little bit stuck before? I know obviously like I can get myself into these kind of cycles where I go down and then I come up and then I go down again, and I think that is just completely normal for me. But it's made me think about how I might be able to do things a little bit differently just in daily life to reset myself a little bit at times where I don't have something like moving to go away to. Because as I say, typically a social thing is not what I would choose to recharge me. It would be a quiet evening at home with Yoli and not having to like talk to anyone, spend time with plants. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking like in terms of even creating content and stuff, like maybe on the days where I plan to do like a repotting of a big plant and I don't feel like doing it that day, I'm like, maybe I should take myself out and I should start doing more Houseplant Tour UKs, and I should start trying to visit more places and do more things like that to kind of mix it up a little bit so my energy doesn't get quite so stuck. And I think that would probably be quite a good thing for me in general. I'm also very good at when I'm in a good level headspace where I am at the moment. I'm very good at like making all these plans and thinking really sensibly about things, and then when the time actually comes I can be like, no, I don't want to do it. So this is just an idea, this is just a thought, but also I know I'm watering this one with no drainage. It's another one I've got in semi-hydro. A lot of these ones here actually I've got in semi-hydro. So yeah, I like currently, mental health wise, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. And my philodendron bell marks here is variegated, however, is definitely reverting. And I absolutely could chop the plant back and conserve some of that variegation, but I'm just not quite sure how much I care. I really like how the plant's growing, and I don't think I mind that it's reverting. So I might just leave it as is. When it starts growing really big and it doesn't fit under the TV anymore, then I'll take some cuttings, I think. But for the time being, I just think it looks really lovely with a little balance. And also the green leaves it's got are just so glossy and shiny. I'm going to give them a wipe down as well, and they're going to look even nicer. But my God, this is one I've got in an old candle pot that I just melted the wax out of and cleaned out again in semi-hydro. And look at those roots. They're amazing. What is your favourite non-aroid genus of plants? Ooh. Right now, and this might be a surprise to some of you, but right now I think I would probably say euphorbia. I've loved euphorbia for such a long time, but I feel like in the last year I've acquired some really unusual and really interesting species of euphorbia, and there's so many more that I've added to my wish list. I would like to kind of carry on building up my euphorbia collection, and also because they are such low maintenance plants as well. They're ones that you can grow really big and you can really enjoy as kind of big gorgeous statement plants, but you don't always have to be as on top as you do with some aroids, for example. So yeah, I think probably currently euphorbia. However, that changes a lot. Like, oh, I was gonna say Hoyas. Oh, which house plants can go outside in the summer? It depends firstly on where you live and what your climate is, because for example, like although at the moment here in the UK we're getting beautiful sunshine during the days, it's still dropping really quite cold at night. So if you're in the UK, I would definitely give it a little bit longer, so long as the temperature's not dropping below about 15 degrees at night. Maybe a little bit lower. I'd say 12 degrees at night. I would say you're probably okay to start thinking about putting some of your tropical plants outside. You absolutely need to think very carefully about acclimating them though, because if you were on my channel this time last year, you might remember I put some of my highlight plants, my bird of paradise, my Monstera deliciosa, I put some of those outside on my balcony thinking that they would be absolutely fine, and I burnt them. So pretty much any tropical plant that enjoys high levels of light, so alocasia, Monstera, Strelitzia, all that sort of stuff can go outside in the summer months, but it is just about doing it very, very gradually and really carefully monitoring them, because I am usually pretty good at monitoring my plants, and this happens so quickly. Like, I think they were outside for maybe 4 or 5 days in total, and the first couple of days I was like looking at them and everything was fine, and just one day I was sitting inside the house and I was like, oh, what's that brown mark on my bird of paradise? And I went to go check on it and I was like, oh my god, why are loads of the leaves brown? And they were all scorched, and it happened so fast, and then I had so much regret. So yeah, take it very, very slowly. But yeah, in theory, loads of them can. I know I just also used alocasia as an example of a plant that could live happily outside during the summer months. Alocasia is a little bit more sensitive and not quite as hardy, and particularly some types of alocasia. So again, the acclimation is very, very real. And I would also just say, like, maybe just wait until it's a bit more consistently warm and not dropping as low at night for alocasia. And the other thing, of course, to think about is weather. Like, if you're putting a plant outside, in fact, I was going to say I've got my big yucca plant outside at the moment and it's coping absolutely fine, but making sure your plants have got good drainage. Don't put them outside in cover pots where they're going to fill up with water and drown or get root rots. Again, succulents are pretty resilient, pretty hardy. You can pop some of them outside. Jade plants, like, they could be outside all year round, for example. But you do just need to think about the amount of water they're receiving as well, because especially if they've gone from a kind of a more controlled, scheduled watering in your home environment, and then you suddenly put them outside in the UK where it can rain up to 5 times a day, you might encounter issues quite quickly. So that is definitely something to think about. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe even creating a little pot cover or something like that, meaning that your plants don't get watered unless you water them. Now, I think that's a silly thing to suggest, actually. Monitor, just carefully monitor, I would say. I also just love this plant so much. I love it way more than I thought I was going to when I first got it. I think it is just beautiful. Oh, and I can actually see next to it, I've got my Hoya macrophylla, which is definitely not in the best spot. It's there, if I'm being completely honest, to cover up the wires from the TV because it's a tall plant. But I can see it is just starting to give me some new growth just there. I should really get this one onto it. Oh, and there. I should really get this one onto a trellis. I don't know, I really like it there. But I know that that's not how the plant is going to be happiest. I guess what I could do is I could wait for those sections of growth to kind of establish a little bit more, chop and propagate, and then keep this section covering the wires. Or I could just get something to actually cover the wires. That's an option as well. I've also had this one rooting in moss for such a long time that I know if I ever come to transfer it to anything else, it is going to be a nightmare to remove. And yeah, so once I've given all of the plants today a bit of a wipe down and a check over, I will go ahead and I'll release even more of the predatory mites in the rest of this room. I've just done my cabinet currently, but Just make sure that there are no more thrips. Look at that little leaf there, isn't that just adorable? Okay, the camera's not focusing and you can't see it, but you can trust me. It's very adorable. In fact, I'm just going to put these to one side, but I'll give the Aglaonema tigris a wipe down as well, because I cannot remember the last time this plant had a proper wipe down. Yoli is giving herself a very big groom. You can hear lots of slobbery noises. Have you found it overwhelming after your 20 plant haul? You know what? Obviously it's early days, but no, not at all. It feels weird that I got 20 plants when I was away, because they have just slotted right into my collection, and so far it hasn't felt like any more work. As I say, to be fair, I've only had like a couple of plant care days since I got them, but it doesn't even feel like I've got more. I think because I got a lot of quite small plants, and all of the ones that I got from Micro Exotics, the terrarium plants, they're all in prop boxes now, so I haven't really done anything to them so far. And I think on the whole, I know I got a couple of alocasias, but on the whole, I think most of what I came away with was fairly low maintenance. And like, for example, I've got my lipstick plants, the Thai Pink Aescananthus, I think, hanging just above me here. I love that one so much. That's the one that I said reminds me of the Peperomia Hope. And every single time I look at that plant, like the texture of it just makes me really happy. So I'm really chuffed with the plants I've come away with. But yeah, they just feel like they've slotted right into my collection, and it hasn't felt too overwhelming yet. Things have felt a little bit busier in here, in the sense of like, I can visually see that there's a few more plants. But no, it hasn't felt too stressful, which is good. And I've got the pot here that the Aglaonema was potted in before, and it's still got its soil in there. And obviously the roots did have root rot, so that soil is not going to be any good. And I know somewhere someone asked a question as well about whether or not I reuse soil for new plants. And to be honest, if there are some instances in which I would, but on the whole the answer's no. Like, for example, this here I'm gonna throw straight in the compost. I'm not gonna attempt to use on any of my other plants. But even if it's like quote unquote good soil, like for example, if I'm just upgrading the size of a pot for a plant, if I've changed out the soil for a plant in the last like 6 months, for example, and that soil is still pretty fresh, I might keep that soil for the same plant as I move it up a pot size, because obviously there will still be nutrients in that soil. But if it's been potted in there for like a year or something, or a few years even, it's going to have rinsed all the nutrition from that soil anyway, and there's no point really giving it to another plant. And also you do run the risk of cross-contamination, spreading bacteria and nasty things to the new plant. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't just say bin it, but if you've got a garden, use it in the garden maybe. Again, so long as there's been no pests or fungal issues or anything like that. And if not, yeah, garden waste, compost. That's what I do personally anyway. I think I have got a very large collection compared to some people. I know not all people, like some of you probably have bigger collections than me, but I try to keep the risk of anything going really wrong in my collection to the absolute minimum. If I started reusing soil on a plant and I didn't realise that it had like root mealies or something like that, mealybugs, and then that got into another plant, then that could be catastrophic to my collection. So it's not personally something I choose to do. Semi-hydro, on the other hand, I do reuse that, and I know again somewhere I saw a question about someone saying, how do you boil your semi-hydro? In fact, this had thrips quite recently. It's doing much better now. It looks a little bit leggy and weird, but it's doing much better. But weirdly, it is potted in semi-hydro. It's not one that I would typically recommend putting in semi-hydro, but it does seem happy. But when I transfer a plant out of semi-hydro and I want to keep the substrate, if it's got, like, for example, if it's got roots and stuff like that in there, I will pick out as much as I possibly can. Sometimes if you get it into like a sieve or something like that, you can see easier what you need to pull out. And then, yeah, I would just boil up a kettle of water, put my semi-hydro in a pan, pour the boiling water on and just let it boil for kind of 15, 20 minutes. You probably don't even need to do it that long, to be honest, but I tend to just walk away and leave it boiling. And then you let it cool and you drain it. Again, pick out any other bits that you can see. But I feel like a lot of the like little bits, if there are any like remnants of root or anything like that, they kind of just dissolve. It usually looks pretty clean when I've boiled it. Ooh, I just knocked something over and it's one of Ross's creations. Is it okay? This is one of his weird little monsters that he's made out of clay. And that's what it looks like. Focus on that, not my face. That's what it looks like. And it's wearing a creepy little mask. If I can get it to go on its face. Yeah, there we go. Creepy little mask. He's made loads of these little monsters and they're really good. But it's just quite funny. We've just got loads of them just here, there and everywhere. I've got another one there. Yeah, they're everywhere in amongst the plants. One of you asked, what is your skincare routine? Oh God, I feel like I shouldn't be dropping my skincare routine right now because my skin, I don't know how well you can tell on camera, my skin is not good at the moment. I am breaking out like crazy. I'm really trying to find a good skincare routine. I've got really into skincare. I've started just finding out more about skincare since hitting 30. I think I just suddenly realised that I have never really been doing anything good for my skin. I've done lots of things that are incredibly bad for my skin over the years. And I think I've just been focusing a little bit more on being good to my body. And like, I didn't know, and youngsters on here, God, I sound so old. Younger people on here will probably roll their eyes and laugh at me, but I had no idea up until this year that you were meant to be wearing SPF every day. I had no clue at all. I wore SPF on holiday sometimes when I remembered, but I just had absolutely no clue. So there's lots of things that I've not been doing right for my skin, and I'm really enjoying like figuring skincare out, to be honest, but I have just had this, like, I don't want to call it adult acne, but I guess it kind of is, just like big breakouts for no reason that I can determine yet. It's on the lower half of my face, which makes me think it's hormonal. And I'm trying things to try and fix it, but at the moment it's just, yeah, my skin's just not great. So I've got a routine that I'm working with, and when my skin is looking a little bit nicer, I will let you know what's worked. How about that? Because I feel like if I tell you at the moment, you'll probably go, oh no, that's wrong with this or that. And I wouldn't recommend it. So yes, that's where we're at face-wise currently. Oh, and I cannot remember the last time I wiped any of these Hoyas down, and Hoyas are so susceptible to flat mites, so I feel like it's a very good excuse to actually be going through and doing this. And it's quite nice chatting to you guys as I do it, to be honest. This is the stuff that I'm usually, I can be quite lazy with, and just kind of like, oh no, I'm sure it'll be fine. And actually, I've just wiped down my little Hoya crinklate and it looks so much glossier. Oh, camera battery just died, but yeah, so much glossier and prettier than it was looking before. It's looking so lovely. Hello, baby. Hi. You're gonna come say hi and cause havoc. Oh, yes, you're so gorgeous. It's probably getting on for her food time. I don't want to say the word because she does know the word. Oh yeah, she's lipping. lip licking. Yeah, give me a moment then. Oh no, she's gone back to bed. We're okay for a little while. But yeah, I can't remember what else I was saying apart from Hoyas, wiping them down, flat mites. Because in fact, I know I suspected flat mites on my big Hoya latifolia Sarawak. And I obviously made the chops and the sections of it are doing really well. However, the mother plant section, which I'm looking at right now, I did actually trellis it recently because it put out a huge new tendril and I saw the start of, I think, about 6 little leaves. And I was like, oh my God, don't miss the opportunity this time to actually kind of activate those leaves, get it onto a trellis. And I did, and all of the leaves have turned and they're falling off. And it makes me think that maybe it's flat mite related with just that section. I honestly don't know. So yeah, that section I'm still fighting a bit of an ongoing battle with. However, the other bits of it are doing beautifully. So I do need to have a little reevaluate at some point. But this is my variegated Hoya obovata and I got it for my birthday back in September. And it's currently just growing in a hummus pot. And it seems very happy. It's another one in semi-hydro. I just put it in here to root and I have not changed a thing because it seems happy and it's giving me lovely growth. And another one that I'm growing a little bit unconventionally nowadays is my Epipremnum skeleton key. And this one I'm just growing in the same way as I am other types of Epipremnum, like my pothos plants and stuff like that. I'm not trying to get that beautiful skeleton key shape out of it anymore because I can't be bothered. It's too much effort. But yeah, it seems pretty happy again. It's in semi-hydro. However, I haven't given this one a wipe down in, when I say months, I think I probably mean about 5 months. It's been a while. Oh, and at the start of this video, I showed you the new rug on the balcony. And oh my God, so after, how long? 6 months? The old rug is no longer living on the balcony, which is a very good thing because my God, I was looking at it all the time and just being like, God, I need to do something about that, but just couldn't find the oomph to actually make myself do anything. We made a reel, me and Ross. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest going and watching it because we had a right giggle putting it together. We hurled the old rug off the balcony and then took it to the bins. However, the bin men have refused to take it, so technically I still have the rug. It's just in a pile by my bin. I think I need to go down there and chop it up and put it into bin bags, and then I think they'll take it. But yeah, for now the rug lives on just. But the other rug on the balcony, I am not going to tell you about because it's boring, but it's meant to go outside. It is an outdoor rug. Do you have any plants you think you'll get rid of soon? Yes, I do. One of them I can see right here. This is my Hoya Ake Splash. I got that one from Aroyd Market a little while ago. And I think it's just fine. It's just not the plant for me. It's not doing anything for me. I'm sure someone else will be happy to have it. So that is one that I'm definitely going to get rid of. There's also a hanging one just above me that, again, I have had for such a long time. And I don't think I've ever really liked it that much. It's a Dracaena Lemon Lime, and it's in a hanging basket. And it hasn't looked happy in ages. And to be honest, it's just hanging there because otherwise I don't have I feel like I'll have a bare spot on my hanging rail. So yeah, that's a plant that if anyone wants it, they can take it. It doesn't look particularly happy or healthy, but yeah, I need to find a nice plant to put there in its place. And that's the hanging rail that gets much lower light than the other one because it never has any sun on it at all. So I think probably, I don't know, maybe a Hoya or maybe a different type of Acanthus. If anyone's got any suggestions, let me know. But yeah, I am undecided at the moment. Oh, I think I need to move my setup around in a minute. And this little Hoya, this is the Hoya Bella Albo Marginata. is so adorable. And granted, isn't growing that quickly in the spot that I've got it in, just because it's in a fairly low light spot, but I don't mind that. I very sadly don't have my big Hoya anymore though, and this is partly my fault. So it got mealybugs, and I did treat it for mealybugs, I think about 3 times. And I saw a couple that came back about 4 months ago or something, and I took it through to the bathroom to give it a shower down, and I don't know if anyone else is guilty of this, but Ross calls the bathroom the place plants go to die. It's not like I do often take plants through that. I'll shower them down, I'll treat them, and then they'll return to general population. But occasionally I'll put a plant in the bathroom and I will forget about it. And I've got a couple of other ones in there actually at the moment. I've got my Anthurium radicans, which I don't want to forget about. And I've also got my Crassula ovata jade plants that I need to treat for mealybugs. That's through there as well. But my Hoya, it was through there just a little bit too long and it died. And I feel really bad because I literally was just going in there every day and I was like, oh my God, it looks awful, it looks awful. And yeah, now it is no more. I've got lots of cuttings of it and I've got lots of propagations. So at some point I will be able to get the full plant back. But yeah, that is one that very sadly did not make it. Yeah. And before I carry on, and I know I'm getting distracted here, but as I say, I don't tend to have much order when I just go around and do planty things. But something just arrived in the post that I thought was just an Amazon parcel, and it's actually a new grow light, and this has been very kindly sent to me by Grow Gang. And I've never tried this light before, and I have been intrigued about it for absolutely ages. And the corner, oh, let's not trip over the watering can. The corner that I'd like to focus on is this corner here, because I've recently put my big Philodendron Splendid in that corner, and although I am using a Mother Grow light bar here and the bottom of the plant's getting light, the top is really not getting that much at all. Like even at this time of year, it is quite a dark corner. And I'm not sure of what I'm thinking is going to work, but this is a clip-on grow light, so I'm thinking I could maybe either clip it to the corner of the shelves or even the curtain, because I never close those curtains. So yeah, I'm gonna have a look at it first and then figure out how I'm going to do it. I was gonna say I'll put all of Grow Gang's information in the description box below if any of you guys are interested. I've heard such good things about this light. And I'm, as you probably gathered, I'm the sort of person that when I find something I like, I very much just kind of stick with it. And I know primarily I'm using Mother Grow lights in my collection. Oh my God, it's a huge bulb. That is weighty. But yeah, I'm primarily using the Mother Grow bars in my collection. And I think because I get on so well with them, I've been not reluctant to try others, but it's kind of like, if it ain't broke, why fix it? But I know Emma's got some of these grow lights, and quite a few of my planty friends actually use these, so I'm very intrigued to give it a go. And then this, I guess, is the actual flip for it. And the only thing I'm thinking is, I don't know if I've got a plug free down here, but if this is as bright and powerful as I think it might be, I might even be able to unplug my Mother Grow light for the time being. And the other thing that they very kindly sent me as well, and this is so nice of them, if you're watching, thank you so much, Grow Gang. I am very, very grateful for this. But they also sent me a timer plug, which I absolutely love. I've got my cabinet lights on timers. This one here actually isn't currently on a timer, and ideally I would like to get organised and get all of my grow lights on timers so I never have to turn them on and off manually. So yeah, this is absolutely awesome. And there are instructions as well, because I have no idea how to work this thing. But let's try and get this in its position first before I put the bulb in, because I can see myself putting it in somewhere that is not sturdy and breaking the bulb. Oh, this is a really strong clip, which is good. Oh, I might actually be able to put it higher up than I thought I'd be able to. In fact, I've got a better idea than what I'm doing now. I think I'm going to be able to clip it onto the curtain rail at the top. Why didn't I think of that? Oh my goodness, I think this could be perfect. Okay, let's do a test and see how bright this thing is. Moment of truth. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Oh my God, the amount of light that gives out is amazing. Oh, I want to have a fiddle with it and get the position right. I'll need to get a light meter and have a proper look at the reading of the light there, but it looks amazing. It really looks amazing. I'll take you, in fact, I was going to say, sorry, this is going to be a little bit wobbly, but I'm going to take you off the tripod so I can properly show you. Yeah, my gimbal's not charged at the moment, hence why it might be a little bit shaky. But I've just clipped it onto the end of the curtain rail there, and I think it's stable there. It's a pretty heavy light, but it does have a very strong clip. So yeah, just look at how much light that is providing. I don't even know, again, I'll take a light reading and I'll have a look, but I don't even know if I'm going to need my mother grow light bar there as well. Maybe, oh, I don't know, maybe I could put that somewhere else. But I just love the look of that, and I love that it's white as well, because not that I need everything to be white, I really don't. In fact, I'm almost kind of moving a little bit away from like the white furniture aesthetic that I kind of went with when I first moved in. But I just like that having, like, if that was black up there, I feel like it would look quite cluttered maybe. It would be very obvious that it's a light, but it just feels, I don't know, like if I stand back, it looks more lampy on camera actually than it does in real life, but it almost just looks like there's a little window there pointing through. I just got even more distracted and spent a good 20 minutes just actually wiring that so that the wires run together and I can have both grow lights on. That was very unnecessary, and I still haven't set it up properly. I just hate looking at wires. So for the time being, that is what it's gonna be like. And you can still see wires. Oh, no, okay. I need to carry on with planty things. I just want to make it through this bit and then I will deal with the wires. Oh, I've also just seen something very exciting. God, this video is turning into distraction central, isn't it? But my alocasia, what's called my alocasia Jacqueline, has just given me a new leaf. And look at the size of that. It's only just unfurled. I haven't seen it yet. But that is ginormous. For scale, look at the size of that. It's huge. Oh my God, I just love that plant so much. Oh, okay. Let's get back to it. Let's carry on watering that corner, which just looks so much better now. I adore that light. It transforms that area and I want to go get loads more. Also, one of my Alocasia portadora's leaves, this one here, is very floppy and it's getting ready to fall off, which is at this time of year just part of the normal cycle. So I'm just gonna lop it back. It's so beautiful, and to be honest, this plant is in need of more light. In fact, you know what I'm thinking? I could put it in that corner. That would look beautiful, actually. Oh, okay, I'm not gonna do that now because I get, honestly, like distraction central when I start doing things like this. Like, Oh, I see a million things that need to be done, and then I start doing all of them simultaneously, and I never complete any of them. So I'm just going to finish this section of watering, because that is what I set out to do. And then we will see where we're at. I also always wonder about like trying to make a skeleton leaf of these leaves or something. I just don't have a massive container to be able to do it in. If any of you have any ideas, let me know. I have pressed them before, but yeah, very sadly, this one will probably just go in the compost. The next question that came in was, does plant care ever bore you, especially when you have around 300 plants? I don't think I've ever been bored by plant care. I don't think that is a word that I would choose to describe it. So no is the answer to that. However, I have struggled to find motivation for plant care. I've spoken so much on my channel about burnout and ADHD and just ways in which I personally struggle, not just with plant care, with anything, a whole host, a variety of things. But no, I think plant care is great because it really keeps me on my toes. It's just that some days it's not what I feel I need, or I find it very hard to get into. But 99% of the time, once I'm actually in it, I don't know how to explain it. I can really kind of intensely focus in on it. And even if I'm listening to a podcast or listening to music or watching something on the telly, even if I'm doing something alongside it, I don't know, it just kind of absorbs me. So the short answer is no, not bored. But I definitely go through periods of that as well. Like I will have, like for example, at the beginning of this year, I was doing loads of reset videos and I was feeling so on top of my plant care. I wanted to be doing plant care every single second, which was so nice because towards the end of last year, I just got myself into a bit of a rut with everything, to be honest, and I just couldn't find my up and go, couldn't find my oomph. And it's not that I have lost what I had at the beginning of the year, because I think consistently I have been kind of functioning on a higher level than I was at the end of last year throughout this year so far, if that makes sense. But I definitely have had kind of little periods of dipping, even without realising that I'm dipping. Like I've said so many times in this video, before I went away to Malvern, I was feeling a little bit I don't know, I just wasn't quite feeling top of my game, my best self. But I didn't really realise that at the time. It's only in hindsight, having come back and had a bit of a reset in that sense, that I can now go, okay, you needed that. And that's really refreshed plant care for me. And since I have got back from there, I think because obviously like spending time with so many planty people, talking about plants a lot, seeing loads of amazing plants, it's just really reignited the spark for me, and it's just made me feel even more passionate about my own collection. It's got me so excited for various projects as well. Also, look at my Aglaonema stripes. It is doing so well here. I absolutely adore this Aglaonema, it's so lovely. Another one I'm growing in semi-hydro, and that in fact was the next question. Do Aglaonemas do well in pon? I find they do really well. I have got all but two, the one that I worked with earlier today, and I always want to call it a Silver Bay, but it's actually a Jubilee compactor. All of my Aglaonema, apart from those two, are in semi-hydro. This one is just in a chunky semi-hydro mix, and it's got a few roots coming out the bottom, but nothing major. And yeah, just keep a little water reservoir at the bottom. I don't even really monitor it, to be honest. I just fill it up as and when, and it's done amazingly like this. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna continue to grow it that way. Oh, and the next plant actually here is my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, which I've currently got climbing up the wall. And that one, my Jose Bueno and my Philodendron Splendid, I did actually do a wipe over of the other day. So again, seeing as it is in semi-hydro, I'm just going to fill up its reservoir from here. and not get the whole thing down. And then because I haven't worked with all of these plants, I've just got lots of mess here now. I should really have a clear up, but I don't feel like having a clear up. So instead I'm going to just put all the rubbish in my potting mat and figure it out later. Oh, and also, so this little begonia, I got this as a one leaf cutting at the Bristol Another Plant Swap. And the last time I showed you it, it was literally only one leaf, I think. And I propagated it from one leaf and it's growing like a weed now. And I think it's so beautiful. But I still haven't been able to get an accurate ID on this plant. Some of you have said potentially Begonia thurstonii, and I've had the thurstonii before. And in my experience, unless it changes a huge amount as it matures, the thurstonii is much redder. And this one is like bright green. And I just think it's lovely, and I really want to know what it is. And I've acquired a few new lovely begonias recently, actually, and it's so funny. And it's actually really funny because I feel like me and Emma are getting into begonias at the same time, both of us previously having not been massive begonia people. I still wouldn't say I'm a begonia person per se, but there are a few that have really tickled my fancy, let's say, and I do either really want or I want more of. I got a beautiful begonia cutting a couple of weeks ago now, I think about 3 weeks ago, and it's stunning. And in fact, shall I show you? Yeah, I'll show you. My only reluctance to showing it, and this is so sad, is that it's not very readily available at the moment, and I am on a mission to find more cuttings of this begonia, and I'm really scared if everyone starts looking for it that I'm not going to be able to find more cuttings, but I'm going to show you anyway. I'm not going to gatekeep the begonia. But this beautiful one is a Begonia Sinbad, and I just think it is beautiful and magical, and it's not perhaps the kind of plant that, I don't know, 6 months ago I would have chosen for myself, because there's definitely some pink in there, but I just think it's gorgeous, and it's actually flowering as well, and it wasn't flowering when I first got it. But yeah, I got this as a cutting on Etsy, and I've subsequently tried to get more cuttings of it, and I cannot find any more cuttings anywhere in the UK. So if you have a Begonia Sinbad and you want to do a swap, or you would let me buy a cutting from you, drop me a message on Instagram, because I really, really like more. But yeah, it's rooting amazingly so far, and it's just one that's really exciting me. So yeah, who knows, maybe this will be the year of begonia for me. In fact, I'm not going to put it down there because Yoli will definitely knock it over. But then the next question was, do you think you'll do YouTube forever? Can't imagine plant care without Claire. Oh, I mean, to be honest, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I currently have no plans to stop. I love making content. I've said it so many times before, but I feel so privileged that I get to be able to do what I love and adore, and I get to do my hobby as what is now a job. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world. I get so much joy from it, and I see no reason why I would stop it, because it's making me very happy. I think if it got to a point where it was no longer making me happy, then I'd reevaluate. But I can't see myself ever not wanting plants, and I can't see myself not wanting to talk about them and connect with people in the community. And so yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. Obviously you can never tell where things are going to go further down the line, but I currently have no plans to stop. And in fact, I've got so many ideas for the future of things that I'd like to do, ways that I'd like to cover things, like changes in my channel, and like positive changes, I mean, things that I could start to do to kind of elevate the level of content that I'm currently making. So no, it feels so fun, and I have no plans to stop. Also, this does not belong here. I don't even know how I got this plant up there. Also, I have never shown you guys this plant before, partly because I can't remember the name of it, and oh my goodness, I need to ask Anne-Marie what the name is again. So a lovely woman on my Patreon who's become a really lovely friend sent me this, and it's I will put the name of it on the screen. I've asked her the name so many times, but the reason she sent it to me is we do live chats every single month over there, and we kind of do a little bit of a show and tell and show each other our plants. And this is one that she grows as a house plant, but also uses kind of like a herb. And if you smell it, it smells like, imagine if you crushed mint, basil, maybe even some sage. I can't, like, it's just a mishmash of so many herbs. That's how it smells. And you can eat it, as I say, but I'm a bit reluctant to do so because I think it's so pretty. And it's currently just in the sphagnum moss that she sent it to me in, actually, and I should absolutely pot it up. I've been looking at it for ages thinking I need to pot it up, but it's doing so well. I'm like, do I change it if it's doing well? Do I let it acclimate a bit longer? But yeah, it's really cool, and it's got the most beautiful leaves. They're really succulent and furry, and it's just so pretty. So yeah, it's one I'm really excited to grow. And I haven't had that long. I think I've only had it a couple of months now. Is it even a couple of months? I don't even know. But yeah, and then I'm just going to whiz through the watering on the bottom shelf because I'm actually going to be away this weekend. And this is my last chance to water. So it is a Comic-Con weekend coming up. And if you see my other videos, you'll probably have seen like weird wigs and big hammers and stuff lying around in the background. But me and Ross are going as Steampunk Joker and Harley Quinn. And I'm so looking forward to it. I only tried my costume on for the first time yesterday. I've been making it on a mannequin for the last, I don't know, 2 months, and I haven't tried it on, and I was just like, oh my god, it's only in a few days' time, I should probably make sure that it all fits, and luckily it does. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love the Comic-Con days so much. I'm not a massive comic book nerd, but I love TV and film. I love the crafty side of Comic-Con because there's so many handmade, beautiful, beautiful stalls that people set up of like soaps and notebooks and paintings and just everything, literally everything. So yeah, I also love dressing up, so it's a lot of fun. And if by any chance any of you are going, because I know I posted it on Instagram last time I went on my Instagram story, and there were a couple of you that actually said you were there. I think it was the next day. I think that's why we missed each other. But I will be going on the Saturday, and if we happen to bump into each other, please come and say hello because it would be lovely to see you. Ooh. So this variegated Monstera adansonii, the Indonesian marble, since I've put it into semi-hydro in this cup, it hasn't been doing great, I'm not going to lie. It's looking a little bit brown, and some of the new leaves unfurling are just a bit crispy, and I'm wondering, I have a feeling it might have pests. I'm going to put that to one side because I can't see any pests themselves, but there's little black dots around the brown, which is often signs of spider mites. In fact, it can be signs of thrips as well, but I suspect spider mites. So yeah, that's going to go to one side. And most of the other things on the bottom shelf are succulents, and I wouldn't have thought, oh, in fact, I was going to say I wouldn't have thought I'd need another water again this soon, but they are quite dry. It has been so hot. Oh, this is interesting. Someone's just made a very good point and said, at times it feels like all plants need the same thing: ambient light, well-draining soil and water. And I mean, yeah, you're not wrong at all. typically all plants do need similar things. I think just at which, the level at which they require each thing can be slightly different. And for example, if you were to water a calathea at the same rate as a euphorbia, you would have a very, very unhappy plant very quickly. And the same goes for light. If you were to put a calathea in the same spot as you'd keep a euphorbia, then you would have a very unhappy plant, and vice versa. But typically, as a general rule of thumb, and believe me, this is absolutely generalizing, but typically if you get, like for example, if I was to acquire an aroid and I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't find any information online telling me what it was, I would keep it in bright and direct light. I would wait for its soil to kind of dry out to about 50% before I rewatered it. I'd kind of try and keep the temperature around about 20 to 25 degrees, and I would try and keep the humidity about 60%. That is kind of standard. However, that does not mean that that will keep the plant happy long term. I think lots of houseplants, and again, I've got a lot of tropical plants. The majority of my plants are tropical plants. A lot of houseplants are much more adaptable than we give them credit for, and they will be able to learn to live in an environment that isn't exactly what they'd be getting in their natural habitat, but it's kind of close enough so you can kind of like keep lots of different plants that would be from different regions, and they'll kind of just make it work. So it's a very valid point. It's a very valid point. But as I say, if you really want to be achieving the best growth in your plants and be keeping the healthiest, happiest plants, it's important to just prioritize what you're able to offer that is specific to them, if that makes sense. So like, for example, I've got a Crassula ovata variegated jade plant just here right up against the window. And that one, although it's right up against the window and it likes being right up against the window, it would probably survive on my coffee table, but I wouldn't be bringing out the best of it over there on my coffee table, which is about 3 meters back from the window. So instead, I keep an aglaonema on the coffee table because that one is much more adaptable when it comes to lower lighting conditions, and that one is still going to give me good growth in that spot. Whereas if I was to put it right up in a south-facing window, chances are it would probably go into a little bit of shock, if that makes sense. But I do absolutely get your point. It can be quite, or it can feel quite repetitive with some plants. Oh, also, one thing I haven't checked in absolutely ages is the Peperomia Hope. Oh, yay! Oh, this is exciting. So the Peperomia Hope leaf cuttings that I took, some of them are starting to put out little baby, I was going to say Peperomia Hopes, like little baby leaves. Do you see? Just there. Slowly starting to, because I know the last time I checked they were rooting, and that makes me really, really happy. Yay! I feel like I am turning so many corners with the Peperomia Hope. I feel like I finally kind of sussed it, because as I've said before, I mean, it's always been one of my favourite plants, but it's one that was doing amazingly when I was living at my mum's house, and when I moved here, it just went downhill, and I was like, oh my God, maybe I don't know this plant at all. And it's been a little bit of a struggle to kind of try and figure out not just propagation, but like getting it to size up, and like, there's just been so many things that have been a little bit baffling to me that I never dealt with previously. So I chopped that plant completely back probably about 4 months ago now. And I feel like I've learnt a lot in chopping it back. And I'm going to save that for the specific video I do on that plant, because I am going to be doing a video probably in the next few weeks on that one, kind of like a deep dive. But I'm really happy that I'm now able to talk about successful propagation with it as well, because that is something that I did very much struggle with before when I tried. So yeah, that makes me happy. Someone said, how are Yoli and your Esmeraldense? I've already covered Yoli. Yoli is grand. The Esmeraldense, in fact, I haven't checked in a while, but it's right here. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Oh, okay. Oh, in fact, yeah, it's doing really well. It's still very small, but that is what it's looking like. That is a root that you see there. I was going to say a big old root. It's not that big, but it's now got 3 little leaves. So yeah, it's being incredibly slow, but I will take it being incredibly slow. I thought I'd lost this plant. So yeah, I will check back on it. What's that? Is that something to worry about? I don't think so. I thought that was thrips, but I think it's just some gritty something on the leaf. Yeah, I will check back on it in the next month or so. Yeah, like as I say, it is one that is really taking its time, but the fact that I am going to be able to actually grow that plant is to me a little bit of a miracle. So it will be worth the wait, I'm sure. When did you start plant parenting? Oh, I think I started plant parenting very badly in my early 20s. I'm 30 now, so about 10 years ago. I didn't know anything about plants. I have said it before, but I did not have a clue about things like watering. I mean, no one does when they're first starting out, do they? But I just assumed the more water you gave a plant, the happier it would be. So I remember I had a ficus down in my bedroom, which I think belonged to my mum. But I brought it down because I loved the look of it, and I remember giving it so much water, like every single day I was just watering it and watering it and watering it, and then when it started to die I was like, what? I'm watering it so much, and I had no idea, and obviously it got root rots. There was also, I had several African violets, that my nana actually had African violets, and again I managed to kill them because I didn't have a clue. So if you can call that plant parenting, then I guess then. But probably when I was like, it was when I left drama school and I moved back home for a while. I moved back home so many times. But when I moved back home for a while, that's when I really started getting into houseplants. So I guess I was 22, 23-ish. I honestly cannot remember exactly when, but that's when I started kind of getting a little bit obsessive, as I often do, with finding out about different types of plants and just learning about them and trying different things. Then, as with many of us, I'm sure, lockdown hit, and I think I had about 100 plants, which is still a very big collection. I had about 100 plants before lockdown. And then I just went obsessive, and I think, yeah, over the course of lockdown, I think I probably gained about 100 other plants. I had way more by the end than I did at the start. But then obviously throughout lockdown as well, I also started TheJungleHaven. I at the time opened what was a little online shop, and I was selling cuttings of my own plants. I was selling plants that I was buying in. I had so much fun doing that. I really, really did. And I've been asked a few times by people if I think I will ever do that again. And to be honest, like when I first closed my shop, I was like, this will be a temporary thing. I will go back to it. And now I'm doing YouTube and I'm loving it so much. I don't think I will do my shop again. I don't. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, but the whole like packing up of orders and stuff like that, I do find incredibly tedious. Again, with my personality and with ADHD, I find it a very difficult thing to motivate myself to do. It was a real struggle. Again, once I was doing it, I was fine, but I would sometimes take days to actually do it. So for me, I absolutely will do like cuttings, trade swaps, like maybe the odd little sale here or there, probably over on Instagram. In fact, I sent out some things to someone this morning. I do little swaps and trades and stuff like that from time to time, but I don't think I could ever do a shop again unless someone else was willing to come and do all of that side of it for me. I know you didn't actually ask that question, but that is my answer anyway. Oh, and someone said, what's the highest price you would ever pay for a plant? I don't know. I really don't know. It's obviously all very much relative to, I mean, how, I don't know. I really don't know. It depends how much I want the plant, how much I thought the price of the plant would drop, because obviously the example that always comes to mind for me is the variegated Monstera adansonii. I remember over lockdown, cuttings of that plant, like 2-leaf cuttings, were going for about £3,000, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. And now you can get a cutting for 20 quid. So if I was going to pay a significant amount of money for a plant, I'm talking like hundreds of pounds, it would have to be for something that I didn't see. I'm not saying I can also afford to do this, but something that I didn't think the price was going to drop on very quickly and I felt that I had to have now. I can't put a price on it. I really can't put a price on it. And it also is, it really depends, doesn't it, on your financial situation, because I think for some people paying £10 for a plant could be really expensive, and for some people paying, I don't know, I have personally known people to spend like tens of thousands on plants. I'm not in the position to do that myself, but at the same time, if that makes that person happy and that person is in the position to be able to do that, then good on them. At the end of the day, you should spend your money on what makes you happy. That is what I believe, that is what working and earning money is all about. You should be investing in the things that are going to bring you joy. So I cannot put a price on it. I have no idea how much future Claire might spend on plants. Currently, I think the most I've ever spent on a plant, it's under 200. It's under 200. I think for a small plant, the biggest price I've ever paid for a small plant was probably my variegated Alocasia Frydek when I first got it. I want to say that was, I honestly can't remember. I remember that was expensive for the size of the plant. However, at the time, that was a plant that wasn't very easily accessible and I wanted it so much, so I don't regret it. Oh, right, also, I think I'm gonna finish this shelf and I should probably go give Yoli her dinner because she's still looking at me and licking her lips. And I've no idea how long I've been filming for, but I feel like I've been going for quite a long time. I've got through a fair amount, considering I did my cabinet this morning as well. I feel like I've got through a fair amount of stuff. Also, I know the last time I was doing this area, this is my Rephotophora foraminifera, and some of you were saying, before I finish that sentence, also I've just seen that the camera battery is about to die, so I'm going to change the battery and then I will carry on saying what I was going to say. Hello again. What I was saying was my Rephotophora foraminifera, the last time that I was, I think, actually watering this area in a video recently, I said, oh no, I was like, maybe like there's discoloration on the leaf that's coming out. I feel like maybe it's damaged or there's something wrong with it. And that was this leaf here, and it's absolutely fine. And in fact, you can see the same thing happening with its leaf that it's giving me now. Also, how quickly is this one growing? It's already giving me a new leaf. But yeah, and I don't know if at some point when I see that they might be fenestrations. I'd be so happy if it started fenestrating soon. I don't know quite how big this one has to grow before it starts fenestrating. But yeah, I really, really, really want the leaves to split because they split in such a cool way. And it's got some amazing roots going up the back of the moss pole now. You see them at the bottom, but they're huge. One of you asked, how do I keep seedlings alive when I'm on holiday for 3 weeks? So if you can't get anyone to come in and water your seedlings, it depends on how big they are, obviously, but I would personally recommend doing kind of what I'm doing to put my plants into storage at the moment, the ones that I don't have like the energy, the motivation to care for. I would get some either big plastic bags or some plastic storage boxes. I'd put a layer of water, probably maybe about 3-4 centimeters of water at the bottom, and then I would put your seedlings in a tray, so they're not actually sat directly in the water, but they've got the humidity, and then I would water them through, close the lid, and I would have thought that would keep them hydrated. That's what I'm doing for example, like prop boxes. I've got loads of plants in moss and stuff like that, and I've got plants in moss in individual cups and containers, and some of them are seedlings actually, and I very rarely have to do anything to them whatsoever. They would definitely be okay for 3 weeks. In fact, one of them, I'm looking at a box in front of me and I haven't opened that in about a month and a half, and I can see everything's fine in there. So yeah, that would be what I would suggest. And also, just on the note of it as well, because I know lots of people are going on holiday and stuff like that at the moment, just in general, things to be doing with your plants when you are going away. Cling film is going to be your best friend. Like for moss poles, it will help lock in the hydration. It will mean that you don't need to get someone to come in and water them. Before I went away to Egypt last year, when me and my friend had no idea where we were going, we just turned up and got on any flight. I wrapped all of my moss poles in cling film, and it was really, really warm when I was away as well. But when I came back, all of the moss poles were still really hydrated. So that is definitely a good thing to do. Again, you can cover your plants' pots in cling film. You can put stuff into boxes. That is just the best surefire way to make sure your plant's fine for at least a few weeks, I would say. And like, I am speaking from the perspective of someone that lives in an incredibly warm flat. As I say, I live in a timber building on the top floor. I get full sun through this window and it gets so warm in here. And that's how I have managed to do things so far. But I'm going away a couple of times actually for the first time in the next 3 weeks, so I will do some videos on prepping my plants for going away before that, so you can see everything that I'm doing, because I'm not going to have anyone coming in when I'm going away. So yeah, I will let you know about that. Oh, and I know I just said I was going to finish off that shelf, but I just want to have a look and see how this one's doing. So this is my Anthurium villanaurum, and I attempted cross-pollination on this one with my Anthurium clarinervium. And so far, it hasn't died back. When did I do this? I think I did this I started about 2 weeks ago now. I've also collected the pollen from this one, so the next time one of my Anthuriums, which actually looks like it's going to be my Anthurium clarinervium, gives me an inflorescence, I'm going to attempt cross-pollination that way as well. I made a reel on this the other day if you want to know more about Anthurium pollination. But yeah, the fact that it hasn't died back yet is very encouraging. So fingers crossed I might get some berries. I'd be so happy if I got some berries this year. But I think I am done for the time being. I've got a very hungry dog looking at me. I'm gonna feed her. I should probably feed myself as well. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for doing planty stuff with me. I will happily make more videos like this. I just never really know if going around and doing just little things like watering is really that interesting. Your feedback is always very much appreciated, so let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'm also aware that I've got a load of questions here that you guys asked that I haven't got through today. So I'll do what I usually do. I will keep them for my next plant choresy video, which will probably be in the next week or so. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, lovely weekend, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.